Hey guys, what is up? It is Zach and I am back with another video. So it is now time to finally do the top 5 phones of 2015. So really quickly, I just want to thank you guys so much for all the support for the video of last year, the top 5 phones of 2014. It did so well and I was so happy with it. So thank you guys so much for that. So coming in at number 5, we have the 2015 Moto X. So this phone is the only phone on this list which isn't actually even confirmed to exist, to come out at some point next year, but it is likely that it definitely will. It's probably going to be a 5.2 to a 5.5 inch 1080p screen. Now we're seeing a lot of phones move into that Ultra HD, 4K, 2K kind of area, but I think with Moto X, which doesn't always focus on the highest specs, it will keep at 1080p, which in my opinion is fine for phones, at least for right now. Likely it'll have a Snapdragon 808 processor, so better than the 805 we have now, but not as good as the 810, which will likely be in a lot of the highest end phones of 2015. 3GB of RAM is most likely to be what this phone contains, and hopefully it has a 16 megapixel camera, maybe even 20 if it really decides to get boosted a lot. So moving on to the software, it will probably have Android 5.0, and Motorola doesn't do too much to change Android. It will be mostly stock with a few enhancements that Motorola will add on. Okay, so moving on to number 4 on this list, we have the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. So the Note phones are some of the biggest and highest spec phones out there every single year, and the Note 5 shouldn't be anything different. It could have a 6-inch screen, maybe a little bit less, 5.9, 5.8, but 6 inches is definitely not out of the question. A Quad HD display is definitely likely to happen on this phone due to those big specs it always packs every single year. Super HD screen is definitely likely. The processor right now isn't clear, but it will definitely be the highest that it can possibly be at the time. Likely the best in the Samsung Exynos line. It might have a Snapdragon, but I think that the Samsung Exynos is more likely. 4GB of RAM is definitely possible, and a 21 megapixel camera would be very nice as well. Samsung phones do usually have pretty nice cameras, maybe not always the best, but definitely some of the higher end cameras in my opinion. And as for the design, it will most likely be like the Note 4. Maybe a more metallic body would be possible, but it's not completely clear what the design will look like. Okay, so moving on to number 3, we have the LG G4. So this might be a surprise to some of you, but the LG G3 was, in my opinion, one of the best phones that came out in 2014. It really kind of surprised people that LG could make such a nice phone. It had kind of been not in the top companies lately, but the LG G3 was absolutely fantastic. Some of the best specs, great looking phone, nice camera, really had everything a flagship phone should have. So I'm expecting the LG G4 to continue with that and maybe even be better. So a 5.5 to a 5.7 inch Quad HD display is what I'm expecting. A Snapdragon 808, maybe a Snapdragon 810 will be on this phone. 3 or 4GB of RAM. Android 5.0 of course, with the LG software making some changes to it. 16 megapixel camera, 3,500 mAh battery, or maybe even more. That's not super clear yet, but obviously because it's going to have a 5.7 inch Quad HD display, like I said, it's going to need a big battery. Okay, so on to number 2, we have the Samsung Galaxy S6. So the S5 was number 1 on my list last year, but there were some flaws with it in my opinion. So this year we have the Galaxy S6 coming in at number 2. A 5.5 inch Quad HD display is most likely to be on this phone. Android 5, of course, with TouchWiz. And I hope that the design is a bit better than the S5. I didn't love it. I thought the Galaxy phones have been a bit better in the past. So I'm hoping it is a, once again, maybe more metallic design. Slightly thinner would also be nice. Okay, and now on to the number 1 phone likely coming out in 2015. We have the next HTC One, probably called the HTC One M9. Now I had the HTC One M7. I've used the HTC One M8, and they're just consistently my favorite phones. They feel great in the hand, great design, great screen, great, everything is super snappy with them. They've just been my favorite and many other people's favorites in the past years. So this phone might have a smaller screen at maybe a 5 to 5.2 inch display. Not completely clear if it will be 1080p or 4K yet, or 2K, somewhere in the middle. It will be a flagship in terms of specs, having some of the best specs out there, but the screen is kind of up in the air as of now. I'm thinking 1080p is likely, but hopefully we can get better than that. But honestly, I would rather have a 1080p display with better battery life than having a 4K that does not have a good battery life. So a Snapdragon 810 processor is what I'm expecting, along with 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now the camera is probably the biggest question mark about the HTC One series. They've went with that 4 ultra pixel camera in the M7, and I'm hoping that maybe they will go to a 13 megapixel, even 20 megapixel like the Galaxy series has had for the rear-facing camera of the HTC One. I do think that would be a big help. The HTC One does take pretty nice pictures when you're looking at it on your phone, but then when you try to blow it up, it just looks kind of pixelated. So I do hope that they go with a higher pixel density camera. Android 5.0 with HTC Sense 7 is likely to be the software that it runs, along with probably around a 3000 mAh battery. That's what I would expect. Now I'm thinking like the iPhone 6 did, it might come out in a few different colors, maybe gray, silver, and gold, just like the iPhone 6 did. And it will stick to that metallic body that it is so well known for. Maybe slightly slimmer, but it's already a pretty sleek looking phone. It doesn't really need to change too much in the design aspect, but we will see about that. So that is the top 5 phones of 2015 that I'm expecting to come out and be great. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.